Welcome to the One to Another podcast. My name is Joanne, and today I want to talk about saying goodbye to pain and building a new life after loss. Now, all of you who have been listening to the podcast do know that in my life I've been married 3 times, and my third husband, Ron Petrie, died in March. And he was on hospice for almost 2 years and slowly declined and was at the end of his journey in hospice. I was right there with him, and I had been there for the last 2 weeks, pretty much all the time with him, watching him slowly change and then being right there when I saw him take his last breath. He was 91 years old, and we'd been married for 27 years. So those are facts. But then we have to look at the reality of the facts. And the death of a loved one may leave us feeling as if all the support we counted upon are damaged or they're destroyed, or where are they? Facing loss inevitably forces us to start over and rebuild. And that takes time to even say those words and believe they happen. But I know that it takes enormous courage to rebuild our lives after the death of a loved one, going through a divorce, losing a fortune. There's so many, I could list many, many reasons why we have so much pain after we've had loss. And it does take enormous courage to rebuild our lives after the death of a loved one or our loss. Even though we know we must go on, we may not have the energy or motivation to even think about beginning anew. Yet eventually, sometime, we have to decide about rebuilding or reinvesting our lives is a necessary part of healing. Every aspect of our lives may be impacted by a death. Facing loss emotionally is hard enough to bear. Yet our daily lives, our routines, our finances, our living arrangements, our relationships with other people can also be altered. Thus, it may feel as if we're building a new life from scratch. Doesn't matter how old you are, we do have to face that. We have to build again. And it's hard to do alone. It really is. Just as it takes time to build a physical structure, if you don't have the help of an architect, a contractor, carpenters, or many workers, well, it'd be pretty hard to build a new house without all that help. So we have to design a plan, and we have to design some sort of structure that we're living with in the work that we have to do to let go. And we may need a counselor, a therapist, a support group, somebody who's a good listener that helps us as we process the pain of losing. And we do need to have a plan. But the task of figuring out what we want, where to go, and how to accomplish all this is overwhelming. You know what? We don't build overnight. Each piece of wood, each nail that we use is a step towards heating a structure that takes a look at the new you. And some of those things may be like learning new tasks, like handling a checkbook, driving a car, cooking meals, maybe discovering social or volunteer activities to cut through the loneliness. Reading books is a great way to get support also, but we have to learn how to set this structure into our lives. Any action towards supporting ourselves can facilitate building a new life. Take one action, like hammering in one nail, but we can begin to heal one step at a time. So I decided, after I've been doing some closures and saying goodbye to different parts of my relationship with Ron, that one of the places that I needed to say goodbye to was pain, and it had to do with the pain of watching him change, the pain of seeing him slowly move to a place where at the end he no longer was talking, eating, mostly in a coma. And so when I think about change and talk to you about change, every beginning is a consequence. Every beginning ends something. When we have a new beginning, we have to end something else. And I've learned that every exit is an entry somewhere else. So as we're leaving one place, guess what? We're going to look for this new entry. And as if we're building a new house, one of the first things we want to build is an entry where we can see what's ahead. One doesn't discover new lands without consenting to lose sight of the shore for a very long time. And that's true. And I've also learned that example is not the main thing in influencing others. It's the only thing. We have to find somebody who's going through it, who can be a mentor, who can help us learn how to move forward, say goodbye to what we've had, and say hello to something else. Because for all of us, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And I do believe that's true. We can change because we need to, but maybe we're not going to grow. And in my life, I want to grow through and because of what I have missed and what I've gone through and what I've lost. So it was I think it was in August 2024 that I hired somebody to come in and be with Ron during the day. At that time, I was still working, and I only stopped working near the end. And I hired this person to come, and she was a very good friend of mine. She had a lot of experience. She'd been a CNA for a long time, and she had spent a lot of time in her own business developing her expertise in helping people go through the grieving process or dying process. And so she came and worked part-time for us. And when I told Ron that we were going to have someone there, at first he went, "Oh, I don't know, Joanne." And I go, "You're going to love her. She's very good at what she does, and you're going to find that she's going to be an asset to both of us." And you know what? That was true. But she decided, Winnie said, her name was Winnie, and she said, "We need to have a book. And every day I'm going to write in the book, and I'm going to say what I've done. And then when you come home, I want you to write in the book what you did in the evening and in the morning before you left for work." I said, "Okay, we can do that." So we began saying things like, he had breakfast, I gave him a shower, changed his catheter, basically facts like that. Well, as the year went by and as the next year opened up, it was more intense. It was more things about what was happening to him. His life was more painful when she was giving him drugs and maybe what he was eating, or maybe today he didn't eat. And so after he died, I just left the book alone. And then not long ago, I decided, you know what? This is a book of pain. This is a book of transition. It's a book of endings. It's a book of beginnings, because I had to begin to realize that my life was going to be without Ron. And so I sat down and I started reading it. And I maybe got halfway through it. And I remember one time when Winnie and I were both talking, Ron said to us, "What are you guys doing?" And I said, "Well, we're writing about your pain in our book, and we're calling it Ron's Book of Pain." He said, "Well, let's see. I think you should write something in there that I tell you to write that maybe will make you think about something a little different." And I said, "Oh, okay. Tell me what you want me to write." He said, "Okay, this is what, what I want you to write. It's not what we have in life, but who we have in our life that matters." I said, "Oh, that's really good, Ron. I'm going to read that again. It's not what we have in life, but who we have in our life that matters." And I know that both Winnie and I matter to you because we're here to take care of you. Well, then another time when we were writing, he said to me, do you have room in your book to have another quote from me? And I go, well, of course. He said, well, just write this down. I said, okay. And this is what he said. Outside in your shoes, you're a stranger among strangers. But in your stocking feet at home, you're part of a family. I said, oh, Ron, that's really good. And I looked down at his very swollen feet, and he did have his stockings on that we had to almost cut in different places to make him fit because his feet were so swollen. So he must have been thinking about his feet and his shoes and how he could never wear shoes again. But at least he could get on these socks. Outside in your shoes, you're a stranger among strangers. But in your stocking feet at home, you're part of a family. So maybe that's something we should ponder as we think about life now. So anyway, I'm holding this book in my hand and decided, okay, it's time for me to say goodbye to the pain in this book. I don't want to read any more in it. Some of it, what I saw him go through was very tough, and the times that we'd have to change his catheter, we'd have to change the bed, we'd have to change everything. So I just realized that it was time for me to have a ritual of saying goodbye. And so again, as I just picked up the book and held it and thought about it, I thought, that's right. This part of our journey in hospice, the part of our journey of our lives together, is all written in this book. For the pain, how many times you had to take pills, times he needed massage, times he just needed us to listen and be there, and the times when he just felt like there wasn't any way he could even stand up anymore. And we would help him stand up and get into his wheelchair so that he could have a little movement. But pain is real. And pain is a part of our journey. And to move on, we need to say goodbye to that part of the relationship. And so I wanted to say goodbye to this book and to all that's in this book, but I want to keep his 2 quotes because I think those are pretty and very wonderful quotes. And so as I thought about pain again, if you've heard me talk about this before, I think this is one of the things that has helped me let go of the pain and let go and say goodbye. And it says glitter. Someone said grief is like glitter. It clings to everything. It hides in corners. It slips into your socks, appears on your fingertips, and when you're reaching for a glass of water or brushing your hair before bed, it settles in places no one else can see. And sometimes it sparkles, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that's true. Not because it makes grief prettier, but because it makes it stubborn. Grief does not knock politely and leave when you ask. It spills, it stains, it stays. People imagine grief as a clean wound, blood, bandage, better. But really, it's a messy room you can't fully clean. A scent that lingers even after all the windows are open. A sound you keep hearing long after the music stops. You know, some people lose things they love. Books, a place where they lived in a city, a voice, future plans, and keep walking as if nothing happened. Others crumble at the touch of a sweater sleeve or the sound of a name. There's no proper timeline for learning how to live with what you miss. Some days you do it graciously and gracefully, and other days you choke on it. You know what? That's still living. And maybe That's the kindest thing about grief. It's evidence that something mattered, that something left a fingerprint on your heart so brightly the light still catches on them, that you live a moment so fully it echoes still finds its way back into your lungs. So if it hurts, maybe that's okay. If it glitters in the dark and you cry when no one is looking, maybe that's okay too. You're not weak for remembering. You're not broken for carrying pieces of people with you. That's what makes you real. That's what makes you capable of love. And love, in all its form, is the reason that we grieve at all. And so as I hold this book in my hand and remember the quotes, then I'm saying goodbye. I'm saying goodbye to looking at it ever again. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to keep it just to remind myself I don't need to open it. I don't need to read it. But it is a place of pain, and I'm letting go of the pain, and I'm saying goodbye to that pain and realizing that I do not need to look back at it anymore, because grief is something that you can slowly let go of. And so, what am I saying hello to? Well, as I thought about it, I thought, well, I'm going to say hello to a new place. I've sold our home. I have sold almost all of our furniture. I've sold almost everything that I felt like I did not want to keep. And I have bought some new. And so as I thought about how, okay, I've let go, I've said goodbye, I'm saying hello, I thought I needed to make a Christmas card this year that had Ron's picture in it for the last time, but I needed to do something to say, this is the new me. And so as Amy and I were looking at the Christmas cards in the book, there was one that had a house. And I said, Amy, that's what I want. And so on the Christmas card, it says, decking the new halls. And that's what I'm doing and have done is I'm decking the new halls. And I have a picture of me in front of the house that Ron and I lived in. And I have a picture of me standing next to the sign that said sold. And then there's a picture of Ron that's really beautiful and looks just like him. And then I have a picture that my podcast guy came to one of the picnics I had this summer and took a picture of me. And it's a really fun picture. And I put that on there. And then I have a picture of where I live now with the address on there. And under it, it says, Merry Christmas from Joanne Petrie. And then it has my address. So here I do I'm building something new. The architect has helped me work this through so I can say I'm letting go. I have a picture of Ron to honor him one more time. And on the back of the card, it says, in memory of Ron Petrie, October 16th, 1933 to March 9th, 2025. And then I've written something. It says, Ron's death changed my life. Sold our home and began again in a new community where healing came through quiet moments and new relationships. I'm deeply grateful to those who supported me. Your presence reminds me that even in grief, we're never truly alone. Life continues through my work as a hospice chaplain and through one to another teaching grief release classes and friend-to-friend gatherings. My goal is to die young at a ripe old age, to live with vitality, purpose, and joy. I found in the small things a smile, a shared story, a moment of peace. And I've learned, in happy moments, praise God. In difficult moments, seek God. In quiet moments, worship God. In painful moments, trust God. In every moment, thank God. Always in your corner, Joanne. Maybe this will help you in some place in your journey where you've lost, that you could take a look at that loss and say, I need to face the pain. I need to know that I am saying goodbye and I am moving into a new place. Do I get to take all the memories? I get to take all the good memories. Good memories stay forever. I hope that you will be courageous enough to take some time to think it through. And maybe it's time for you to have a ritual of letting go. I hope you'll take one more step in your journey. It's only as we take these steps that we begin to heal. And remember, I am always in your corner.